So we're calling it a sip of history. So I did the Titanic because I've always liked the story of the Titanic. I like the movie, but none of this has anything to do with the movie. I'm playing the music in the background just because it reminds me of the Titanic, but yeah, none of it is movie related. So we're not going to have any Jack or Rose talk or anything like that. It's actually more the history. When I was doing some of the research on it, it was kind of neat. There was a lot of history on the making of it that I didn't really know. A lot of the stuff they actually said in the movie was true for the most part, with the exception of course, Jack and Rose part, all that stuff. So, oh, Dennis with the heart, stop it. You flatter me, sir. Just the history of it and stuff like that. I was doing some research on it. I didn't realize it took so long to build, but it makes sense. Back in those days, it took a long time for things to happen. They worked on it from March 31st, 1909. That's when they started building it. They launched it in May 1911, but it didn't get completed until 1912. That's because when they launch it, they got to make sure everything floats, make sure everything's watertight, and then they start doing the trim out inside. So it took a whole another year to do all that. It was built in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Ireland. It took about 14,000 workers at its peak to complete. Like that. The watertight compartments were a big selling feature on the Titanic. They were talking about how unsinkable it was because it had those 15 watertight bulkheads, and it would still stay afloat with even 4 of them full of water. But what happened on that fateful night, obviously, is more than 4 of them filled up, and it couldn't take it, and so it went down. The structural components, it was made of rivets, millions of them. They fastened the steel plates to the ship's shell. The rudder, the part that steers the ship, that thing was 78 feet long, just for the rudder. Miss Cher, hello! And was made with more than 100 tons, made from 5 solid steel sections. So just the rudder for the Titanic was 100 tons. That's crazy. It did have 2 power plants, 2 massive reciprocating steam engines. Those were 40 feet tall, so think of a 4-story building. That's how tall those steam engines were on the ship. Of course, a lot of risk with construction back then. It was dangerous. There was not a lot of safety regulations. Workers faced falls, burns, handling hot rivets, exposure to asbestos back then. That was a big thing. Fatalities and injuries. SS 8 men died during the whole construction, with around 250 more sustaining injuries. The outcome of the Titanic was the largest man-made object ever built at its time of completion. The interiors were advanced with engineering and were intended to meet the highest standards of luxury and safety for transatlantic travel. So remember, back in the day, there wasn't no airplanes. This was how you got from Europe to America, or anywhere over there to America. You had to get on a ship and sail for a while. And this was supposed to be the luxurious way to do that. At the time, it was the biggest thing man had built, which is pretty crazy. Biggest man-made moving object at the time. So, yeah, a lot of neat stuff, a lot of neat little facts when I was starting to dig into it. Again, we've all seen the movie, but I didn't want to go off of the movie, because I really don't know what in the movie is true, what is not true. You know how they embellish things. I don't know. I did watch a few documentaries on it and stuff. I don't know. They did say that the captain did go down with the ship. He helped get everybody off the ship, or as many people as he could, and then he stayed on the ship. I think his name was Bruce Ismay, the ship's designer. He also stayed on the ship and died. Its sister ship, that was so now we can get into, there you go, Dennis, that's a good segue. Conspiracy theories. I didn't realize there were so many conspiracies about the Titanic. I had heard a couple of them, but they did say that the Olympic was one of them. They said the Titanic never sank. This is rooted in insurance fraud. That it maybe is unsurprising. The conspiracy theory is one of the Titanic's most popular. It states that someone switched the Titanic with the White Star Line ship, the RMS Olympic. The Olympic was damaged when sailing from Southampton to England to New York. In September of 1911, it had to return back to the shipyard in Ireland, where it had repairs. The company repaired the Olympic. It sailed to New York again, and then had to come back and had more repairs. So they're saying that when it was in for those repairs, they switched it and then sunk that one, or had that one sink, because it was already damaged and they wanted to get the insurance money out of it. But a lot of the research I saw said that it didn't make any sense because the Titanic's insurance wasn't even enough to cover the Olympic. So you wouldn't have made your money out of it. I mean, you might have gotten something out of it. But another one, the conspiracy I thought was pretty good, was the J.P. Morgan, that he planned the disaster to kill off his rivals. So he was supposed to be on the ship. Last minute, he pulled out and didn't get on the boat. And then the disaster killed Jacob Astor, Mr. Strauss, and Guggenheim. They all perished on board. But like was said when I was reading that one, it's like, okay, well, how could he possibly plan for them to all die on the ship and hitting an iceberg? And, you know, so it's a coincidence. It's crazy that he was the only one that pulled off of the ship. But this is one of the conspiracies also. One of the passengers who went down to the Titanic was William Stead, a British editor who subscribed to the early 20th century spiritualism and had spent the past several years claiming a cursed mummy was causing mysterious destruction and disaster in London. As with other myths, Egyptian curses, this myth is played off of the colonialist anxiety about the people whose land they had plundered. So, right, they'd gone into Egypt, they'd taken all these things, and now they're worried about the repercussions. On board the Titanic, Stead happily repeated his tale to the mummy's curse to the other passengers. After the ship sank, the survivor recounted Stead's story to the New York World, and the media picked it up. The next month, the Washington Post ran a headline that said, "The ghost of the Titanic, vengeance of hoodoo mummy followed man who wrote its history." He said that it's linked to the mummy's curse with the Egyptian artifacts that survivor Margaret Brown, remember in the movie, this unsinkable Margaret Brown, she's an actual person, she did survive the sinking, that she really did take with her on the Titanic to deliver it to a museum in Denver. But with the version of the story, the mummy was actually aboard the Titanic because the British Museum had sold it to an American who was shipping it home. So there was reportedly a mummy on board, but they're saying that's why it sunk and that's why they had all those issues. And then the last one I thought was kind of interesting was they said the ship's number, the whole number, read "No Pope" backwards. And I thought that was funny because that's 3909 space 04. And in researching it and looking at it, there was no such number on the Titanic. The Titanic's number was 401. That was the whole number of the ship. The trade number was 131,428. And none of the numbers on it read "No Pope" backwards. It was just, they said that they had done that because of the people wanting to rub it into the Catholics' faces in Ireland. But when I was doing the research, it said the company, mind you, had driven its Catholic employees away in the late 1800s, and by the 20th century, Harlan and Wolff had a reputation of only empowering Protestants. So, the curse of the mummy, that's right. So anyway, that's some of the stuff I looked up and found. I thought that was kind of neat. So what we did is I made a tribute mead from a lot of the history and stuff that we have. Now I tried to do a better bottle, but this one didn't come out. It says White Star Line on it. That's the name of the company. Got the shirt. Probably can't see it with all the names there. And I even got a second class coffee mug. So this is what the second class and the third class and even the officers on deck and stuff, this is what they would have been drinking their coffee out of in the morning, or their tea. So let's go through the recipe on what we made. So we used, if you saw the video from before, if you haven't, go back and check it out. It's in my page here. It's in my. We used 3 pounds of Maleven pure Irish honey. That was from I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Kilkenny, Ireland. So I actually got online, got an Irish sourced. What do you call it? I don't know what's that. So I bought my wife a bunch of Irish tea. Also, she likes tea. And so I bought all this stuff so that I could get 3 pounds of honey. Well, thank you, Dennis. No, it's I think I've always been interested in it, right? But all anybody ever talks about is the sinking. It's all you ever hear about, which is important. But it's like, you know, people never hear about all the stuff that happened before. Like even before the movie came, I didn't realize that it had been built in Ireland. I was always told it was an English ship. It was an English ship, but it was built in Ireland, as was the Olympic. So we used Malivan Pure Irish Honey. We used a gallon of Icelandic natural spring water from Iceland. So it's got a pH of 8.4, but it's supposedly actually off of glacier water and all that. So I got 3 gallons or a gallon of that and put that in there. We used 2 bags of steeped tea. Now what I bought on that one is, yes, thank you, Belfast, is it's called the Titanic Blend. I found it online. Okay, so basically this is a blend of the 4 classic teas they say they would have had on the Titanic for the first class, second class, all those. So it's a Keeman, Assam, Ceylon, and Oolong, if I'm saying those right. They smell good. And so I steeped a couple bags of those in some of the water and put that in there as well. So now the Irish honey, obviously, for the people who built the ship. So we wanted to make sure we paid tribute to that. The Icelandic water, it was the closest thing I could get to where the wreck happened. It's closer to Nova Scotia, but there wasn't really any Nova Scotia water. It's pure, and that's would have been close, I think. And then we did the tea, obviously. That was for all the classes. They all drank tea. Even, you know, the first class got to drink tea up in the sitting rooms and up on the decks and all these things. The second and third class, of course, had to go drink theirs below deck in their rooms or in some other common rooms that they had. And then I put 11 D47 yeast and some yeast nutrient. And we let that sit for about 3 weeks. We transferred it to a secondary where I added some lemon zest. That was to help complement the tea flavor. And then we also added a charred oak spiral for 2 weeks. I added the charred oak spiral. I thought that was a good tribute to the guys down in the boiler rooms. Again, a lot of unsung heroes, right, that people don't talk about. I thought that was kind of a neat tribute, a nice smoky flavor to try to add to the mead. So we added that. Took that out after 2 weeks, transferred it into another vessel, and let it sit for 2 to 3 months. Now I have tried this, I will say. This is not my first try, because when I bottled it, I always try it when I bottle it. You know, Dennis, you know how it is. But I thought it came out pretty dang good. I thought maybe some sitting will help it. But I got this glass because I wanted to see how clear it came out. So, I mean, Dennis, you'll appreciate that. That is about as clear as I can get it. And I can see right through it. Looks great. Smells good. So, we're going to put that there, though, because we're going to take our first sip out of our White Star Line mug here. Now, don't brag me, Dennis. I don't have the mead review like you do, but smells good. It's still really good. It's got a good mouthfeel. It's very complex. Like there's a lot of flavors going on there, but I can definitely taste the lemon. I think I would leave the charred oak spiral in there for a while more than 2 weeks. This is probably right now 6 months old by now, but it's got to be about 6 months old by now. So, and I've got another couple bottles with corks in it and stuff. So, I try to send some people, Dennis, some smaller bottles of it and see what you guys think, because this one came out really nice. I will say I don't know that it'll come out the same because I'm not going to pay what I paid for the honey again. It wasn't like huge, but it was just more than what I typically paid. So, but I mean, it was for the meat, right? It was for the video, for the, what did it say? What did they say? For the gram, for the talk? I don't know. So, but no, it came out good. I like it. We can chit chat.